Howdy everyone, it is Chloe again. Well, this is the second video. I promise I'm going to start doing these weekly, so here we go. I actually have myself this week a list of topics to discuss and a list of topics to talk about what I've been doing this week and some stuff there. As discussed last week, Death Stranding came out. I did get a chance to play that on Sunday. I really like it. I originally started playing on normal mode, which is what I typically try to do. But I think with Death Stranding, I am going to drop it down to just a little bit of an easier mode, mostly because I'm kind of just here for the story. I don't really care much more than that. And my time isn't exactly something that I would say is in abundance. But that's okay. In other gaming related news, as far as stuff that's happened, I picked up Pokemon Sword and Shield, and so far I've been playing Sword, and it's really, really good. I really enjoy it. I'd highly recommend, if you are on the fence about it, picking it up. I think it's probably one of the better Pokemon games that have come out as far as a main entry series. I think it's a little bit better than Sun and Moon in the fact that it's more of a traditional experience, but the story is there. Team Yell is actually kind of endearing. I not to say that there was nothing wrong with Team School. I just think that Team Yell is kind of a bit more lovable goofballs, which is really nice in a Pokemon game. It's very refreshing. And then finally, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order came out this week, and I've been playing that. I played that about 4 hours yesterday. I really, really like it. A preliminary cursory glance makes it kind of seem somewhat Souls-like in the fact that you have what would be akin to bonfires. They're called meditation points, where you rest at, and when you rest, enemies respawn, and you can spend your skill points there, and if you die to an enemy, that enemy then takes your experience, and attacking them heals you, which is a little bit different than some of like the Soulsborne genre, but I think it's a really nice take on it. I think some of my complaints might be there's no gear upgrading or anything like that, which isn't inherently a problem, but it can make progression feel a little stagnant at times, which is fine. That's just how they chose to do their game. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, so that's kind of the little quick recap as far as games and stuff. Movies or anything like that. I'm getting ready to go see Ford versus Ferrari tonight, or Ford v Ferrari, however they want to call it. It's with the new Christian Bale movie and God, who is? I'm gonna look that up really quick because I'm now curious. It is, I want to say, Mark Wahlberg. No, it's Matt Damon. Matt Damon. And actually, it looks really good. I'm really excited for that. So we're gonna go to that tonight. Got tickets for the Alamo Draft House. For those of you who do not know, I'm a big fan. I enjoyed the food and I enjoyed the service, and I especially actually one of my favorite things is their pre-screenings. So I'm really excited to see what they do with this. I think that'll be really cool. So yeah, that's really exciting. I'm looking forward to that. I did not get a chance to go stream this week. My week's been a little bit busy. I am hoping I want to get a time and figure out when I can do it. But part of it is with, oh my god, everything that's going on, it's very difficult to, I think, actually find a time, and that's just and I really think I just have to make room for it, and that's what it's going to boil down to. Let's see, what else did I do this week? So it was brought up that I didn't talk about hockey on my last video. I play hockey, and the reason I didn't bring that up is because I actually recorded that on Sunday before my game on Sunday. But since last Sunday, I have had 3 games. Unfortunately, lost 2 of them, but I had an assist in one, and then won the other one, which was a good news. I've been playing. I recently got back into it, but I played a lot when I was a kid. I really enjoy it. I definitely would like to keep going with it. I think it's something where I think it's just something that I'm really really passionate about and really enjoy. And no matter where I end up, I'd like to keep playing. So that's kind of my week recap as far as what I've been doing, things like that. I do want to talk a little bit about a couple of current events, and the first of which is Transgender Awareness Week. For many people who don't know, I am transgender. I don't make it a secret, but it definitely is something that does shape my experience and shape my outlook on life. And Trans Awareness Week is a very powerful week, a very good week to discuss and come around and start talking about issues, especially in our community, because even as much as we would like to say, oh, our community is wonderful, our community is great, it's unfortunately there are issues and there are things that do require attention and then would require, there's nothing I would say is perfect about it. There are things I like. There are things I like a lot about it, but there are other issues, like trans people of color are still at much higher rates of violence. Trans people are still at high rates of discrimination for unemployment, discrimination for housing. Like, unfortunately, it's still not easy. And as much as I wish that wasn't the case, it kind of is the world we live in. But things have gotten noticeably better in the last couple of years, even despite a political, I won't say political opponents or ideologues, but I would say even despite difficult political times for the LGBT community. And I think it's important that we don't forget about, trans people. And on Transgender Awareness Week, the very last, so it goes from Tuesday to Tuesday, and the Wednesday following Transgender Awareness Week, it is Transgender Day of Remembrance, which is a day that it's kind of a very personal day, a very not. I mean, I shouldn't say personal day. It's kind of a very I'm trying to think of the right word for it. It's a very serious day. It's a day that you take to remember those who have passed, in any sense of like passed on, and either whether that be through violence, whether that be through they just died, or whether that be through any means like that. And it's a very, there's typically a lot of memorials that are held around the country. And it's typically a day where people are very somber and are very thankful that they're still here, and that they're still able to continue on, because there's people who aren't. And I think it's important that we remember that. And I think it's important that we recognize those who may have had difficulties in their life and who may not be with us. And we continue on, especially for them. So that's going on currently. And I'm sorry, it's not like a super happy thing to talk about, but it's a very real thing, and I think it's very, very important that people be aware of. A couple other big news articles this week I want to talk about. There's two. First of all, Roger Stone. For those of you who do not remember him or do not know who he is, he came to fame a lot during the Nixon scandal and Watergate. He calls himself a political con artist, and the important thing to recognize about him and this whole situation is that he was actually found guilty this week, which is a huge, insane thing. He was found guilty on 7 counts, 5 of which are, I'm pulling up the article here. Let's see. He was found guilty on 5 felony counts of lying to investigators, 1 count of obstructing congressional probe, and 1 count of witness tampering. This is kind of big. This is actually a really, really big, important news story, because he basically got his entire... So For those of you who do not understand Roger Stone, he is very much a political figure who says there is no such news, there's no such thing as bad media coverage. And while that may be true, I definitely don't think that is, or while that may be true for him, I don't think that's actually a good way to look at bad press. I think bad press certainly is bad press. I think, but for him, it's media coverage. People are talking about him, and people are bringing up his name. He's happy, and the only reason I'm actually bringing up him and bringing up his name is because of how politically divisive he has been through the years. He is basically the one during the Trump campaign who started up the lock her up deal, the Hillary Clinton for prison deal. He was one of the people behind that. He is like I said, his description of himself is probably the best. He's a political con man, and there's actually a really, really good Netflix documentary, a really good Netflix documentary called "Get Me Roger Stone." I think it's super important that people watch that to kind of understand what kind of a person this is and how big it is that he actually was found guilty, because for years and years and years and years and years, he's always said things about he's untouchable and how he is absolutely, no one can get him and all this other stuff. And people finally got him. And I think it's important to recognize and realize the fact that no one's outside the law. And for a long time, he definitely pretended to be. So that was a really, really big thing. So then the final news article I want to talk about this week is something that happened in Iowa, and it's actually been happening a little bit, but there is a reverend, and I will link both of these news articles into the video description and along with a article about Transgender Awareness Week. But a Reverend Anna Blaedel, I hope I'm not mispronouncing that. They are a non-binary individual who is a reverend in the United Methodist Church. And unfortunately, this week, they have been asked to take an indefinite, unpaid leave of absence from their position in, I'm trying to remember what city it is, Wesley Center at the University of Iowa. So that would be in Iowa City. And why is this important? This is important because, first of all, this is a non-binary individual, and they are self-identifying homosexual. Now, for those of you who are not understand or who do not know, the United Methodist Church, or UMC, is openly against homosexuals, especially in, not necessarily practicing in their religion. However, they don't feel that homosexuals have the right to wed, and they don't feel they have, I want to say it's wed, and they don't have the right to intercourse effectively. And they are, and have had a very long history of this, of openly denying practitioners to say, if you're married, you're not welcome. And they don't necessarily take someone who says, I'm homosexual. They don't turn them away from their church. However, they will tell them, you can practice your faith with us and you can be faithful, but you must deny yourself any of the benefits of marriage, or you must deny yourself any of those benefits of parenthood. Basically, so that's kind of why this is such a big deal, because there was a pastor who is now being asked to step down and take an extended leave of absence. They are able to keep, a reverend. They are able to keep one of their like leadership roles, and that's in a Tuesday group. I don't remember the exact name of the group, but there are a couple of incidents in particular in which there were complaints over a few years, and So I'm going to read a couple quotes from this article, and but basically what happened with this is that there was a an overall congregation meeting in which these complaints were brought up and discussed, and that the decision was made that says you can no longer practice. You can no longer be a practicing reverend in our faith, which is really sad. And a quote from the reverend themselves is, "I am a self-avowed practicing homosexual, or in my language, I am out queer partnered clergy." That's really important. That's really big, especially in this kind of a in kind of an environment that historically has not supported that, and the fact that they are willing to stand up and be seen and be heard as who they are is huge. And I think it's important that they not be silenced. The three complaints that were leveraged against them are: in 2016, a complaint was dismissed by Iowa's former resident bishop. I'm trying to find the details on this. Let me see if I can't find it. There's a Des Moines Register article that kind of went into the discussions on this, but one was completely dismissed, the very first one. The second one was a complaint that Blaedel officiated a close friend's same-sex wedding, and I haven't been able to find anything on this, as in if that was held within the temple, for lack of a better word, or like the sanctum, or on church property, or is this something that was done in a neutral party, and they may have been going as a reverend in there, and as a reverend of the church, but not representing the church. And there's definitely some questions around that. But the third one being was around being a self-avowed practicing homosexual in violation of the denomination's rule book called the Book of Discipline. There has been some discussion I've had with a few people this week on, well, if they are so much against this organization's values and views, then why are they a part of this organization? Much less, why are they a leadership member of this organization? And I really, really think that the core here is that they're trying, that it's very much something where my opinion on this, and what I can see on the outside, because I'm not directly involved, is they were raised to be a Methodist, and they believe in the passion of helping people and showing people that there is a higher power, there is a higher route. And I'm also not saying that I believe this personally. I don't know what I believe, I'll be honest. I really haven't had a whole lot of time to sit down and think about that. But the idea that there is a higher power is something that appeals to them. The idea that they can be a shepherd to people who are seeking that guidance is appealing to them. But they also cannot deny who they are. And it's important to do that. And so I think really what this reverend was trying to do, and what this reverend is trying to accomplish with this, is to say, look, it is entirely possible that you can be you, and we can learn to accept and love people as Jesus did, and and as God has told us to. And I think it's important to recognize the fact that it's something very possible that you can be in an organization and maybe not accept their core ideas and values, but you can look to change them. Ideas and values aren't something that's set in stone, because if ideas and values were something that's set in stone, we would be in situations where ideas that would be ideas or values that would have been around for 400 some years, which are certainly not still relevant, would still be prevalent. Like 400 years ago, and I'm just throwing out that as a generic time frame, like maybe we would still be worshiping, the Egyptian pathology. I don't know. I can't make that claim. It's something where it's very difficult to actually sit down and prescribe what that ideology looks like, especially in a world where we're not living it. But that's the core here, and that's the point, is that our perspective changes with our knowledge and understanding, and our knowledge and understanding as a society has reached the point in time that we've basically decided as a community and as a people that LGBT people are not bad. We're not going away, and we're people just like anyone else. And I very, 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 very much think that was the Reverend's goal here, to effectively do a hearts and minds campaign and start to change people's opinions. But I feel that the takeaway from that is unfortunately the fact that people are uncomfortable and they don't want to see that happen, which is very sad to me. Um, I think it's a very difficult thing to accept and a very difficult thing to process and deal with, but it is, unfortunately, I think that's where this has landed. So I actually, on all of these, I would like to hear what your thoughts and opinions are. Feel free to discuss that. Feel free to follow me on other social media, and you know you can get plenty of other digest. I usually try and post on Instagram once or twice a week, but I would like to hear from you. I do have an anonymous messaging app, which I have linked in my link tree below. That's Telenym. I'm a big fan. I'm not actually paid to say anything about it, but I really do like it. It has a really good way to see someone by what they follow and see what their historical, answers have been. And it's a really good app, and it's free. So, that being said, I hope that everyone has a great week. I know I am certainly going to. I'm looking forward to. Um, sorry. I'm looking forward to my company Thanksgiving this week. That'll be really exciting. And I'm definitely looking forward to hopefully starting my first deep dive. Speaking of my first deep dive, that's something I actually wanted to bring in to a question here. I'm going to start looking at topics this week, trying to figure that out. I'm going to try and get it narrowed down to just a couple, and then I will probably post a link on next week's video for people to vote and say, here's which one I would like to see. Granted, all of these topics are going to get done eventually. It's just what would I like, what would I do first. So, with that, I hope everyone has a great week, and I will see you later. Bye!